I'm Jennifer Lee Jellicorse. Jennifer Lee is a double-barrel first name because I'm from North Carolina, and Jellicorse is my very English surname. I am a relative of Admiral John Jellicoe from the Battle of the North Sea. I'm going to start again. Here we have just this bit of brick here with a tiny bit of clay pipe in it. This is a bit of brick from a place called Berkeley House that was built in the 17th century and then demolished in the 18th century. And bricks at this time period, they would use bits of ceramic, bits of clay pipe, bits of stone in order to prevent the bricks from shrinking and cracking during the firing process. So it was used to kind of temper the mix, as it were. I'm Jennifer Lee Jellicorse, and I'm from North Carolina, but I've lived in the UK for the past 15 years. I studied speech at Northwestern University in Chicago, and I went on to do post-grad work at the Bristol Old Vic Theatre School because I'm an actor. And I've worked in the West End, and I've done a couple of national tours, and I've worked regionally, and I also do a lot of work for BBC Radio 4 and Radio 3. And I love that work because it puts me in contact with a whole different range of material than I would be able to be exposed to in a theatrical setting. I do a lot of documentary work, or reading poetry, or reading short stories. And particularly that documentary work. For example, I did something called the Jonestown Massacre, which had letters from people who were involved in Jem Jones's group. And I did something called Dream Astronomy, which is people writing into the Wilson Observatory in California, sort of in the 19-teens, talking about, no, that's not what you're seeing astrologically in the stars, because the Martians came down to me last night and took me up in their hot air balloon and showed me the universe. But it's by accessing that kind of original source material that really puts you in direct contact with those real people and really their lives in a non-fictional sense. And that's probably what leads to my interest in history and in archaeology, because I love the trash of our lives and how handling those objects and discovering those objects and really relating to those objects puts us in touch with those people who lived very similar and very different lives to our own. Part of archaeology, and particularly historical archaeology, is very much in the way we present what we find. And they've done two things here which I think are particularly indicative of that fact. Here we have two little objects. Just here it looks like there's sort of a Chinese dragon or a lion. That was found in a disused water tank. And then just next to it we have a little lamb which was found in an old brick-lined privy. Two totally separate sites, and of course the volunteers have decided to present them by having the lion lay down with the lamb. So I'm a long-term volunteer at the London Archaeological Archive and Research Centre, and my site there is Borough High Street 72, if any of you have worked on that. So it's sorting through some medieval but mostly sort of Roman finds. And when I knew I had learned something, as we're putting aside, this bit of Samian ware and this bit of this kind of pot and this bit of glass and this little bit of this, that, and the other thing, I found this pot which was very unusual, and it didn't really look like anything I had seen before. And it had these kind of interesting inclusions in it, which are sort of like the kind of white inclusions that you see here. And I immediately was like, oh, what have I found? What have I found? And I went to speak to the people who help us as volunteers, and they thought, very interesting. Could be prehistoric, could be Saxon, not really sure. Could be early Roman. And I found a piece of paper that someone had written on in pencil that said Nerovian. So I'm still in process trying to chase down the proper specialist who can tell me about this one little piece of pot that's in a little plastic baggie that's been in one of the boxes of the hundreds of, maybe even hundreds of thousands of boxes that are there, as to whether or not it's Roman or prehistoric or Saxon. But it certainly makes me feel connected to whoever it was who used that pot for whatever purpose they did. And I like to think that somewhere out there they know that I care that much about it. Interests and activities. I sing in the London Forest Choir. I am a member of a Northwest Morris side. I'm learning to play the banjo. I'm learning to play the banjo. I love gardening. I love garden archaeology, actually, finding the sort of shoe horns and bits of those pebbles that you buy from garden centers, feet down in your garden. I love to cook. I'm vegan, so I have weird food weirdness, but I love real ale and will take ale in all of its shapes and forms. My favorite is probably Sam Smith's Oatmeal Stout, has to be said. I love documentary film. I love travel. I don't mind the rain. I like it inside with a book, it has to be said.